Hi, welcome. Thanks for joining us today. This is the Parent Education and Support Group meeting through the ARC of Fort Bend County. My name is Carrie Axtell, and I'm the Advocacy and Youth Programs Director here at the ARC of Fort Bend. We're a nonprofit advocacy organization, and we provide family support and a variety of social and recreational programs for youth, teens, and adults who have an intellectual or developmental disability or IDD. But if you would like to know more about the ARC and what we do, please visit our website, arcoffortbend.org, or also follow us on our social media, the Facebook and Instagram. And if you have any questions during today's presentation, feel free to unmute, ask excuse me, please use the chat, and I will ask our presenter at the end of the presentation. And in the meantime, we'd like to welcome our presenter, Chandeep Kohli, who is presenting about the spring transitions and how it will impact students with autism. Chandeep is the founder of Cully LLC, which is a Southwest Houston-based holistic autism services practice. And she was shaped by her own childhood experiences, and she's devoted more than 20 years to helping autistic children and young adults to overcome the obstacles and discover their strengths and thrive. Chandeep has degrees in special education and autism. She blends empathy and evidence-based practices and a close partnership with the families and schools to help shape those expectations. She does in-home coaching, parent training, and school advocacy, and she helps autistic children and young adults grow with confidence. And it's focusing on academic, social, and just everyday life. So we're so glad to have Chandeep here. Got a lot of knowledge and background, and we're excited to learn more. Welcome, Chandeep.
Well, thank you, Carrie. Thank you for that introduction. I think it speaks too much about me. So thank you, and thank you to ARC Fort Bend for providing this platform for parents. And thank you, parents, for being here, because believe me, if you're a parent who wants to know, half the battle is won by you wanting to learn more. So thank you for being here. Today, we are going to talk about spring transitions and how it affects children with and teens and young adults with autism. Now, I can tell you one thing, spring is my favorite season because I love the new blooms. I love the like little green leaves that come out on the tree, the fresh breeze, the rain. So that is my favorite season. You may be seeing something different at home. So you may be seeing, your kids having meltdowns, them just changing their attitude, becoming somebody different, crying, etc. And let me tell you, you're not imagining things because spring is hard. It is very, very difficult. And today I can give you some gentle, easy, um, um, you know, what's the word? What's the word? Strategies. Yes, strategies to make life easier for you. So, this is our agenda for today. We're going to talk about the general onset of spring, what happens to everybody in spring, and what it looks for our children in spring. And I think springtime brings about very different impact on our younger kids and our older kids. So I wanted to divide that for you guys and then give you some simple strategies, nothing complicated, practical strategies that you could do at home. So let's get started. Okay, what do you see in spring? Like all the things I said, right? There are longer daylight hours, you have pollen, you have allergies coming up, you have temperature swings like we just experienced in Houston. It was 40 degrees one day and 80 the next. We have seasonal allergies, like I just spoke about pollen. You have a lot of schedule changes, and the schedule changes I'm talking about is what is not in your control. Like if your kid goes to the park every day after he comes home and suddenly it's raining, you can't go to the park. So that changes, and your child may not understand that. You see a lot of stimulation everywhere around you. lots of lights, lots of noise. People just want to get out of their house and be out there, right? So everything is overloaded in spring. Okay, spring fatigue. Now, spring affects all of us, right? When that time changes, and even when that time doesn't change, a lot of you may have traveled to the East Coast and the West Coast, and you must have realized that, your sleep gets disrupted. And if your sleep gets disrupted, everything changes, right? You become more irritable. You find it difficult to get organized or focused. You get up feeling tired. You're exhausted, you have reduced motivation to do things. You basically have a low tolerance for things around you till your body adjusts to it. And that is called spring fatigue. You feel off. Um, I want you to think about this is what you and me, thinking we are neurotypical, go through, right? What is it that our children go through who are children, teens, and young adults, everybody who have autism? Remember one thing, that change is just spring coming up is not just a change in season. It is a change in what our mind and body need and what they need to adapt to. And Carrie, I just wanted to tell you, if you think I'm going too fast, just tell me to slow down.
Oh, I think it's
I
good
just
pace
talked too
for me,
fast.
so thank you.
Okay, okay, thank you. Okay, now let's talk about some of the characteristics that your child has, right? What are the characteristics? Children with autism have sensory processing differences. That means they may be hyper or hyposensitive to light, sound, touch, some taste. So that's already going on in their life, right? They have difficulty with transitioning. So transitioning is if they have a set routine, if something changes, they find it very difficult. Now, why? I want to tell you why this is so important, because when children have a set routine, they feel secure, they feel they know what's coming up next. When that changes, there's a lot of insecurity, and that's why they have the issues. They have something called executive dysfunction, and this is what I am going to refer to later on too. So I want you to keep this in mind. Executive functioning is something that you, me, everybody does to complete any simple task. It may be getting ready for school in the morning, right? The kid knows I have to get up at a certain time. I have to take a shower, brush my teeth, get my backpack, get my breakfast, wait on the bus, or wait for mom to take me to school. So any event, a simple event like even frying an egg, takes a thought process that what I want to do, takes planning, what I'm going to do, when I'm going to do it, takes organizing things, getting ready at the night for the morning, and then actually executing that plan. So any simple plan, like even if I think about taking my dog for a walk, I have to plan it, I have to make it strategic, and I have to actually execute it. That requires executive functioning in our brain. Children with autism have frontal lobe issues. That's why they have executive dysfunctioning issues. So remember this, and if you don't remember, just put it in the chat and I can explain again what executive dysfunctioning means. And they have issues with, a lot of children with autism have sleep issues. They either don't sleep in the night, they wake up very early in the morning. As a teacher, I used to get calls from, my parents at home. Hey, he woke up at 3 and he didn't go back to sleep, right? So a lot of children have these issues. These all may seem like very small issues, and the changes may be in spring may be small, but when you put all this together, and then you add on the issues that we just spoke about in the previous slide about spring, that just blows it out of proportion for our children, and they go into an overload mode. Okay. Next, I want to talk about this, which usually goes unnoticed among all of us. Because I have been in the school system for now 20 years, I know that the springtime is the most intense time in any school. what's happening? You have testing going on. I know I'm going down to testing, but you have testing going on, right? Star test starts at this time. A lot of change in routines, a lot of field trips, a lot of events, assemblies, environment changes. So, what happens when your academic and schedule shifts happen? That is when a star test is happening. Our kids are supposed to remain in their classrooms till the entire test of the entire school is over. So, if they usually go for recess 10 o'clock in the morning and testing is not over, they don't go to recess. So, those are the changes that happen in school. Staff and system shifts are like, um, people kind of get to know their next year's positions. People are trying to apply for new jobs. The principal is changing. That brings a lot of change and uncertainty, anxiety in the school. Though this is not directly felt by the kids, but if adults feel it in the school, they pass it on to the kids, right? And then you start your preparation for the end of the school year. Teachers have to finish all their evaluations. So the adults in the school are very hyped up, along with all the changes in the routines, put a lot of pressure on our children. And our children start struggling. Their nervous system goes into overtime to adjust to everything that's going on. Okay. Now, this is our impact on our younger children, our children who are in elementary school. Um, the first thing is what you as a parent see, right? This is purely what you see. You see meltdowns, you see emotional dysfunction, crying, clinging. They wake up early, they can't go to sleep at night. The clothes that they used to wear usually now start to bother them, or things or some food that they used to eat earlier now bothers them. They have these added sensory issues. You may feel that a child is losing, my child is losing skills that they had already mastered, right? Like, so if your child is already potty trained, they may be having accidents at that time. Or if they're completely independent with eating, they may seem like they lose the skill, but their brain is so overloaded, like I just explained, with things that their body and mind is trying to cope with, that they can't remember the usual steps that they used to follow to complete a task. For some children, they may seem different. They may seem withdrawn. They may seem shut down. You may see extreme stemming in them, like rocking, flapping, fidgeting, etc. This is what you see, and you get confused because you don't know what's going on, right? Now, I want to explain why this happens. This happens, oops, sorry. Trying to go to the previous slide. There you go. Okay. This is because our children are still growing. Their nervous system is not fully developed. They cannot understand what's going on in their bodies. You and me, adults, we can express, oh, I kind of don't feel right today. And we have words to express what's happening in our body. Like, I know the day I'm very anxious, and I can say I'm anxious, and I can take steps to, help me with my anxiety. Our children don't know anxious. They don't come to you and say, Mom, I'm feeling very nervous today, right? So they don't know themselves. They rely heavily on predictable routines. And this is what I spoke about earlier. A change in routine completely destabilizes a child. Children with autism do not have the concept of time. So they cannot understand that I'm going to come in the morning, then I'm going to have my morning routine, I'm going to do ELA, I'm going to have my recess, lunch, etc. That's the reason we give them a visual schedule, for them to feel secure that, hey, this is what we are going to do. When I was a teacher, if I had a student who would say home, 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 I would take them to their schedule and she'd say, hey, we have to do this, this, and this before we go home. So that resonates with them. They do not have the emotional language to express themselves. They feel that they cannot communicate with you and tell you how I'm feeling. So how does that communication happen? That communication happens with behaviors because they have no other way to tell you how they are feeling. They can't tell you, hey mom, the bright lights are really bothering me. There is overall increase and I'm feeling very overloaded. So they will melt down, so they will cry, so they will shut down. That's the reason these behaviors are happening. The next step is, what are practical strategies that we can do? What can you as a parent, sorry, again, bear with me, guys. I have like 4 screens, so everything is changing. Okay, make the change. My first thing is make the change in time a big event in your house, right? Everybody's talking about, hey, daylight saving time is coming. We are going to have to move the clocks back. You mark it on your calendar, and then you count down the days to your calendar. I hope everybody has analog clocks in their house because I do. And we change our time and we go 1 hour backward. Make your child a part of that. Make your child a part of putting that clock backward. Explain to the child that when you wake up in the morning, it may still be dark, right? There are several clocks that you get, which are color coded clocks that showed a dark background in the night and a brighter background in the morning. That helps them transition with that time. Visuals are very, very important because our children speak in pictures or understand in pictures. They do not speak in words. Words do not make an impact like pictures do. So communicate that time change using visuals. Visuals like today is a special day, like the marking of the calendar is a visual. Now we all know we have allergies and pollen uh, during the spring season, right? So do our children. Try to mitigate those adverse effects of allergies by providing some sensory needs to fulfilling their sensory needs. For example, if your child is sensitive to light, provide him with sunglasses or her with sunglasses. If they are sensory to sound, provide them with headphones that cancel noise out. If they have proprioceptor issues, provide them with a heavy blanket. Those are that is your sensory needs. Now, when you go to bedtime, make sure that you plan extra time for your bedtime because your child may not go to sleep because he's going to sleep one time earlier. Make it a fun thing. Hey, we're going to do this small activity before we go to bed. If your child is sensitive and it's light outside while they're going to sleep, put some dark shades out there. If your child wakes up too early the next day because of the time change, provide them with a preferred activity or a book. And you can say, hey, you can do this till your alarm goes off, till you have time. It is time to wake up in the morning. And the most important thing is to send an email to the school, to all your service providers for your child, saying, hey, my child has some issues with the time change coming up. Please watch out for any changes that happen in school and please communicate that with me. Now, if when you get so collaboration with school, remember, is the most important thing. Now, if you get a call from school and say, hey, we are having a very tough time, what can you recommend? These are some things that you can recommend to your school. Visual schedules. So when I was a teacher, I worked in the ABC classroom in Fort Bend, and I had a visual schedule for every child that told them where they were going. And like you see that picture down there where it says change alert, that means they know that today there is going to be a change in the schedule and it's not going to look like every day, right? So they're already priming and prepping their body and mind that today is going to be something different. Your teacher can have a calming corner in the side and she can schedule sensory breaks for your child where he goes and calms down or she goes and calms down. Movement breaks are very essential because movement reduces stress. Brain breaks. as a teacher, you can schedule breaks in your schedule. Now, remember, a child really does not, a child and adult, anybody, you and me sitting here together, our maximum span of attention could be, I don't know, 2 minutes, 3 minutes, 4 minutes. So a child's span is even smaller. So schedule those movement breaks in the middle. So he gets up, he moves his body around, and then he comes back and sits down. And these are some things you can do at home too. They don't only have to be at school. You can have a calming corner in the house. And then pre-teaching and priming a student for a change that's coming up prepares that student. So if I have field day and I am going to spend all my day outside, it is not going to look like every day. So your teacher can start preparing the child ahead of time. This is what I used to do when we had field trips. Say I was going to the zoo, I would start my children a couple of weeks earlier. I would make a slideshow of the zoo and show them, hey, this is what we are doing. This is where we are going. We may be seeing this animal. So they are ready when we actually get on that bus and go to the zoo. So these are a few practical solutions that is my suggestion to you. Okay, now it comes to impact on our older children, our older teens and young adults. So we know that it looks very different, right? They may not have big meltdowns. Their tolerance level may lower down. They may be very irritable with whatever you say. Things like simple families sitting together and having dinner, they may not want to do that. They may come home and straight want to go to their room. Anxiety, I have to tell you, according to research, at least 50% of autistic teens and young adults, and for the rest of their life, have an anxiety disorder. So, this anxiety disorder already brings about biting of nails, pacing, palpitation, physical things like nausea. And then you add on all the spring changes, that anxiety just doubles up, right? And that's why you see these things in your children. They may look like they are resisting and they do not want to do the simple tasks at home or school that they usually used to do, right? Or they have a fine day at school, nobody says anything, but they come back home and they have this big meltdown. And you're wondering, what did I do wrong? You didn't do anything wrong. We have to learn our children and we have to know what to provide them. Now, why this happens? Remember, we spoke about executive functioning earlier, right? So when the day sunlight time increases, serotonin and cortisol increases in our bodies. When this increases in our bodies, now certain amount of cortisol is necessary, it makes us more alert, but when that increases more than needed, it affects our sleep, it affects our mood, it affects our memory, and all these things are needed to carry on a task for which you need your executive functioning. So that's the reason spring has a bigger load on executive functioning. Kids have sleep issues like all of us have. They can't sleep at night. Again, they wake up early. They are pacing in their room sometimes when you go at 2 o'clock in the morning. And then we talk about hormonal changes. Oh, sorry, guys. Bear with me. Okay. All our teens are going through hormonal changes, right? Their bodies are drastically changing and they are going through these weird sensations in their body that they cannot understand. When you add autism, when you add the spring pressure and how it affects executive functioning, it becomes more difficult for our children to deal with those hormonal changes. What happens during spring, guys? All teens want to be outside. They are sick of being home. Your child gets numerous invitations to different places to go to. Hey, we're going to the park, we're going to go fly kites, we're going to meet at this person's house. Everybody wants to be out, it's loud. So for teens and young adults who already have socialization issues, this increase in demand of socializing adds an extra load to them. And remember that at this time in school, even in high school, things are changing. They are testing, they have projects. The teens are preparing for next year's transition to go to a sophomore year or a junior year, which they have to get their credits to graduate. So that increases the pressure for them. It's my sticky hands. Heightened self-awareness. Why am I talking about heightened self-awareness? I can tell you that I personally do not want to be a teen or in middle school or high school or in college right now, because it is very, very stressful, much more stressful than when you and I went to school. Okay, the social media, the peer pressure, the feeling that you didn't get a like or somebody disliked you on social media, it is very, very traumatic to our children. Along with that, there is this body image that especially girls and boys want to portray, right? Being slim, showing off, boys want to be muscular. So it heightens their self-awareness on how they look and how they seem to other people. They feel like they are losing control. Now, teens and young adults already with autism already have low self-esteem, they are insecure, and they have lack of confidence. When they feel they are losing control, they are trying to do whatever they can to regain that control. And that is the reason you see those changes in them. One most important thing that I want to talk about is masking. And that goes to the point is when they are completely fine in school, but they come home and they have that meltdown, right? Because they are masking. They are trying to look normal in school in front of their peers. They don't want to use their fidgets too much. They don't want to use the regulation strategies that we give them. They try to act, oh, I am okay in being in a loud, big crowd and talking to each other. I am okay being at lunch and sitting at this table with 20 other people, because they want to fit in. And masking is so, so exhausting for our children. So when they come home, they are exhausted. They feel safe because home is a safe environment that you have provided them. Then they can let loose and melt down. That's the reason they may be fine at school, what you think is fine, but they come home and they have these meltdowns. Okay, practical strategies. This I am really kind of excited about because I want to explain something called the spoons theory to you. The spoons theory was coined by Christine Mercerandino. Sorry, I messed that up. She was somebody who suffered with a chronic illness and she did not have enough energy. So she developed this theory of spoons, which is related to the energy level, right? And for example, spoons represent energy level. So I will set a number of spoons that I want for each activity. So me as a teen, for me to get up in the morning, get ready and go to school, I need 2 spoons, okay? For me to go to a social event, I need to utilize 5 spoons because 5 spoons represent the amount of energy that it takes out of me to be in that social event. When it comes to exams and tests, I am really, really afraid. It takes me 8 spoons. Every morning we get up and then we give ourselves number of spoons. We give ourselves number of spoons depending on the kind of night that we have. When you and I are sleep deprived, we wake up feeling tired. We have extra coffee and caffeine to just make it through the day. So think that that also happens to your teen. So say your teen wakes up with 12 spoons, and today I have an exam, right? So I need to conserve my 8 spoons for my exam. So you as a parent say, hey, sweetie, don't worry about making your bed. Don't worry about taking your brother to school because that is extra spoons that you're going to use. Just keep your spoons for taking that exam, right? So they conserve that energy and be a little flexible and adapting to say it is okay if for certain days they don't do everything that they are supposed to do. I can tell you when a child walked into school, I knew what kind of day that child is going to have. I adapted my expectations from the child because it's not the child's fault that they had lack of sleep, right? It is not the child's fault that there was an incident on the bus and they came to school just wrapped around. So instead of having a meltdown because I am pushing and pushing the child to do everything that they're supposed to, I adjust and the child can do 5 activities out of 10. So here, remember, you are not lowering your expectations, you are adjusting and reduce pressure at certain times of the day when needed. Preserve your long-term functioning. Um, so if you have any questions about the spoon theory, I know this was a little difficult to understand. I mean, if it was, please put your questions. Carrie, you have your hand up.
Yeah, I was just I haven't heard this before, so I like that illustration. It does make sense about kind of conserving your energy for certain things. Are there strategies like how we would use that with the school, I guess, to communicate? Um,
Absolutely. And was that the end of your question? Sorry, I interjected you there.
yeah. Well, I guess go ahead because that might lead to more questions.
Yeah, so remember one thing that your child spends 8 hours in school every day, right? Collaboration with school and all the service providers, where you all are one team, where you all are working together, where you all have the same strategy, right? Now, saying that, there are some kids who may not want the same strategy at school and same strategy at home and feel, oh my God, I don't want to do this again. So it really, really depends on your child. If something works at home, go to your teacher and say, hey, I tried this with the child. You can communicate, hey, my child is going to come to school just during that exam time. That is something you can do if the school is not ready to implement this. That's what you can do. Or you can talk to your teacher and say, my child will sit in the library till his exam, and after the exam, he will have a regular day. He or she will have a regular day, right? So, yes, thank you for bringing up that, Carrie. Collaborating with schools and implementing these at schools, you know your child best. Your teacher doesn't know your child better than you, right? So you are the most important, or I can say second most important stakeholder in this equation after your child. So if you have strategies, talk to your teacher, see if they can implement them. And teachers are very, very innovative. They can take a strategy that you are using and adapt it to the school environment. So please, yes, communicate this with schools and see how you can adapt this to schools. Oh. And I also want to bring your attention to the picture, though it seems a little busy. That is an example of this person who needs only 1 spoon to get to bed, to get dressed, to take medication, and to watch television. So say this person is not watching television, but every day he or she goes to bed, he or she gets dressed, and they take medication. So you know that you need 3 spoons for this. Now this person takes 2 spoons for taking a bath and styling his hair. So when you have less spoons, guess what? Don't style your hair. right? You conserve those spoons for something else. And this is something you do with your child. This is not something you do for your child. You do it with your child and you decide with your child, hey, look at tomorrow. Tomorrow, I think you need this, this, this. How many spoons do you think you need? Okay, you're going to consume 2 spoons right here. So let's lessen this one more spoon. You go to 2 events after school tomorrow. I don't think you're going to have any spoons left after you come back from school because it's going to be an exhausting day. So let's not do the after school activities, right? So that's how you adapt this spoon. And it doesn't have to be a spoon, right? It can be a stick, it can be a doll, it can be anything, it can be, what do kids like nowadays? I don't know, something, fancy that your kid likes. You can give them 5 animated toys, whatever animation they like, 5 songs. Just adapt it to your child and make it what inspires your child. Does that answer your question, Carrie?
Yes, I think so. It's really just helping them visualize and recognize in themselves how much energy they're going to have to expend to do something. So that's a
Yes.
great self-help tool, I think, for them to
It's an
realize.
emotional regulation tool, right?
Yeah.
It is telling you that, and it's a great point that you said a visual, because even if you write it down, hey, you make a schedule and you say, you have this, this, this tomorrow. By making it a visual, like I said, children and adults with autism don't, and this is something that Temple Grandin said. She said, I don't think in words, I think in pictures. That's why when you tell a child, stop, stop, stop 10 times, they don't stop. But the minute you show them a picture of the stop sign, they'll stop. That's how powerful pictures are. So thank you, Carrie, for that. Um, Reduce non-essential demands. Like I said, if they go to 3 after-school activities, reduce it to 2 on days that are difficult for them. Choose your battles. Choose the battles that you want to fight with your child. um, Collaborative problem solving. Collaborative problem solving is a relationship building mechanism or an approach that you sit with your child and say, hey, I have noticed recently that you are finding this very, very difficult. So, how can you and me sit together and make a plan? Say, for example, my young teens don't like taking a shower sometimes, right? It could be due to sensory needs or whatever. Hey, I have noticed that taking a shower has been very difficult lately. What is it that we can do? Can I make some special shower soap that you like a lot? And instead of taking a shower in the morning, you take a shower in the evening when you come back, or vice versa. So that is called collaborative problem solving. That the problem is not on the child to solve, it is a collaborated effort between you and the child to solve together. Executive functioning tools. Now, I am assuming you remember what executive functioning is. Some tools to complete a task could be a checklist, could be a journaling that they write down, could be a planner, could be anything that helps a child or an adult know this is the first step, this is the second step, this is the third step. I want to share something with you which has nothing to do with this, but it was just eye-opening for me. When we read the instructions for frying an egg, right, it can say heat a little oil in a pan, right? That to you and me may seem a very simple thing, but for our neurodiverse people, they say, do I put the pan on the gas first and then turn it on? Do I put the oil in the pan and then put the pan on the gas? They break up that one little step into numerous steps and they get confused about which step comes first. And they will get stuck if they don't do it in the right order. This is just something that can seem so simple to you and me. Look at it from the lens of the person who is affected, right? That's the lens they see it at. So this is not something that they are being defiant and they don't want to do. They are struggling, and how can we validate their struggles and how can we support them? That is what you and me need to do. Oh, I'm back. Okay. Now, when it comes to at school, Now, this is something that you can prepare your teen for, or you can communicate with teachers. Remember, teens like a feeling of control. They like to feel like they are doing their own self, and that is what you want them to do. Self advocacy is something you want them to do. You don't want to be managing them, you want to be facilitating that management at that time. So, when it comes to socializing, they don't have to go to all the events that they are invited. They can go to one or two events that bring them the most joy and most happiness, right? So, they don't have to do everything. Self-care, I think, is one of the most important thing. Know what self-care your child needs. It could be quiet time in the room. It could be listening to music. It could be some sensory thing that they do. And make sure that they get that self-care time in the day to recharge themselves. Another thing is predictability around testing. I think I've spoken about predictability and how we need to be proactive and strategize before testing. Reminders, checklists, planners, all these things help them reduce their anxiety during testing time. Um, and at school, permission to ask breaks without, like, the teacher should know, hey, if this child gets up and walks out, because you remember you're dealing with a high school or a middle school kid, they don't want to look different. But then they should know I have the permission to get up and walk out for 5 minutes in the hall and come back, and my teacher will understand. So without being penalized for that. And then you can provide them with a OT toolbox. Now, OT toolbox can have both sensory and emotional regulation tools. What are some sensory tools? Some kids need deep pressure. They can do wall push-ups. You can put some resistant bands in their backpacks. And remember, they don't want to be sitting in class and doing that. They can schedule a 5-minute break to the restroom and use those bands. You can give them a compression hoodie. You can give them a lap pad on which they put their stuff so they get that pressure on their lap while they are doing that. You can build some movement breaks, like tell the teacher, hey, give him or her some task during the day to go to the office and do this so he gets a movement, or he or she gets a movement break. Then, of course, the sensory regulation tools that I spoke about earlier, like glasses, headphones, etc. And emotional regulation tools. Now, what are emotional regulation tools? Emotional regulation tools are journaling, that the child writes down what they're feeling, breathing techniques, because that helps their emotions calm down, quiet time, and what I used to use is something called a 5-point scale. A 5-point scale is when a child visually sees, when I'm a 0, this is how I look. When I'm a 1, this is how I look. And when I reach a 5, this is how I look. And and then you teach them tools to recognize what number they are at, right? Oh, I am fidgeting a little too much. I think I put a number 2. Okay, what is it that I said that I could do to go from a number 2 to a number 1? I said that I could do some deep breathing. I said I could stop, pause, and count to 10. And then I will come down to a number 2. So this is a self-regulation tool that you are providing them to first recognize the level that they are at, give them tools to come down to the next level. This is called the 5-point scale. If you look it up, and then Carrie, when I send you things, I can send you a picture of the 5-point scale that you can send out to parents. Okay. Now, these are just some some universal strategies for both all age groups. Remember one thing, that when your child is dysregulated, his brain goes, his or her, I'm sorry, I keep saying his, their brains go offline and they go into survival mode. What is survival mode? You will either see them fight or you will see them flight. That means they'll run out of the room, or you'll see behaviors. And that behavior gets misinterpreted to, oh, she shut down, or oh, he's having a meltdown. Okay? Just don't look at the behavior, go deeper. Find a pattern in that behavior. See, when is this happening more often? Is it happening when socializations is heightened? Is it happening on a day when they don't sleep well? So then you can see a reason for that or a trigger for that behavior. And when you find that trigger, you can intervene and put interventions there that helps them with that trigger, right? Adjusting expectations, we spoke about that. Remember that when you adjust your expectations, you are not failing as a parent. You are giving your child what they need. Visuals speak 1,000 words, like I just explained, does much, much better than language, especially when they cannot they do not have the expressive language to express to you how they are feeling. Provide them with some pictures and say, hey, I feel really horrible today. This is how I'm feeling, mom. You know, movement helps lower your stress hormones. Sensory and emotional regulation tools are very important. And I think I've spoken about sensory and emotional regulation tools earlier. And I can answer questions if you have some more of them. And when you validate your child, you reduce the cortisol in their body. When you reduce the cortisol, you reduce stress. When you reduce stress, they can regulate themselves. I know that we think routines and structure is very important, right? It is very important because it provides safety. But when you give a little bit of flexibility in that structure, you avoid power struggles. And by making small adjustments, it makes a huge difference. Now, this slide is just about perspective taking. And I know, and I apologize that image is very, very busy, but it was such a beautiful image that I didn't want to not put it on the presentation. This slide is just about perspective taking, how you see what is happening. Do you see the glass half full or half empty? Now, and I have to tell you, parents, I am with you, right? I think that my children know better. They can do better, right? They're intentionally doing this, but they're not. We may focus on obedience. That may be our focus. A child may have to do what we're telling them to do because we know that's the right thing for them, right? We think that we respond or we look at behaviors and what to do about behaviors only after the behavior happens, right? And the best way for us to look at a behavior is to maybe take away a preferred activity from them. You're losing your cell phone for 3 days because I saw you on social media longer than you're supposed to be, right? That's how we do. That's what we do. This will increase anxiety and shutdown in your children. Let's change our mindset from compliance to compassion, to trying to make a connection with your child. Behavior impacts behavior. What you do before, during, or after a meltdown will determine whether that behavior happens again, or in the moment, does that behavior escalate or does it settle down? Because how you react to a behavior changes whether that behavior is going to go up or down. Do not look at the behavior in isolation. Try to find out why that behavior is happening. What is their nervous system trying to communicate with you? Why are they feeling that way? So when you look at a behavior, and take the whole picture and get a deeper understanding of why, you change your lens from obedience to supporting regulation. And dysregulation is your why. Because they are dysregulated, they have these symptoms. Then when you figure that out, you figure triggers, you become proactive instead of reactive. You are able to provide them tools that they can help themselves, that these behaviors do not take place. Build trust, build a connection. That goes a long, long way. My last slide is, I went to the super last slide. My last slide is just something that puts together everything that we have talked about right now, right? Know that your child doesn't become a different person in spring, but what they need from you changes during the spring season. We know that spring adversely affects everybody, adversely affects you and me. And when spring, the issues with spring affect our child who already has regulation issues, it they become over, their body is working overtime to cope with that, and that leads to the frustration. Do not look at a behavior in isolation and superficially, go into the why. When you change, make your child's schedule predictable, it lowers the anxiety. Connection, validation, compassion create strong relationships, and strong relationship calms your child down. This is not just for you or your child, this changes the dynamics of your entire family. I want to say, saying all this and knowing autism, that when you know one child with autism, you only know one child with autism. That these may not be a cookie cutter solution to every child, right? Every child may need something different. And I have spent several years in this field to know that it is a basis of trial and error. When I was a teacher, I changed my schedule every day for the first month or two because things didn't work. This one didn't go with that one. This timing didn't work. And then when my children were adjusted to a schedule, I got a new student and I had to start all over again, right? So no trial and error. Have patience, because when you implement something, it doesn't change overnight. It takes time to change, right? One reason I started this business is because my heart went out to parents. Like I said before, you are the second most important stakeholder. You know your child the best. So when you educate yourself and you gain knowledge, you are a powerful, powerful advocate for your child. My mission is to educate parents. Because remember, when your child reaches the age of 22, they're out of the school system and you're on a cliff because supports really drop at that time, right? So if you are prepared and your child is prepared, that is the focus. This slide, I guess, is the most important to me because now I want to hear if you have any questions. And I'm sure other parents may be able to answer your questions better than me because they have been in that situation. So let me open the floor for any questions that you have seen, Carrie.
Yeah. So I'll give a moment in the chat. If you have any questions, please, I invite you to put them in the chat. I just appreciate you kind of throughout the presentation giving us that perspective of just observing and taking that time to kind of look, because each child is different, is unique, might be showing different things, is just as a parent or as, working with the schools and the teachers to take some time and observe. Say something, we don't know what is going on or why these things, behavior, which is communication, why this is happening, but working together, maybe we can just try to realize what particular times, what things are going on. Is it particular people that are around them? Is it particular activity that's going on? Is it observe, so that then once we know kind of what is happening and what's triggering it, maybe then we can discover how we can implement some of these different strategies that might be helpful. And like I said, how do you you're not necessarily going to do it all at once. Maybe not every strategy in the book, right? We want to start slow and kind of see what might work for them, so it's not overwhelming to them and totally changing everything that they're doing.
Absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah, so
And
thank you
that
for
is
that
one of the
perspective.
basic things that we do when we do a behavior analysis, right? We try to find the function of the behavior. Why is this child doing this? And the way we do it is we make a record of what happened just before the behavior, what happened during the behavior, and what happened just after the behavior. And
Mhm.
then when we have a record, then we can see a pattern. And that tells us, okay, this is happening because this child is wanting attention and not asking for attention the right way. Then we can put our strategies in place and say, I can try a card of attention, I need help. If that doesn't work, I can try something else. But yes, trial and error, because we know what we know, but we don't know each child separately, and we don't know what works for every child.
Right, right. All right. Well, I don't see any questions here, but you have thrown so many wonderful, just the strategies and the information. I think one thing I will do is I will share your information as questions come up after just hearing the presentation. There may be additional questions that come up. So I will go ahead and stop the recording for this time. But Chandeep, we thank you for your time. Thank you for sharing your information and expertise in this.
Absolutely, absolutely. And if people, parents have questions, you can forward them to me. You can find my number on my website for cullyllc.com, and you could contact me if you need. Just feel free. We're here to help. You're not alone.
Thank you so much for that.